Following today's vote, Americans will still be able to access the websites they want to visit. They will still be able to enjoy the services they want to enjoy. There will still be cops on the beat guarding a free and open internet. This is the way things were prior to 2015, and this is the way they will be once again.
I'm saying at the outset here, today's rant is not necessarily intended to be some persuasive treatise on the merits of overturning so-called net neutrality. All I'm going to do today is present some exculpatory evidence on the proposed Title II Internet Protection repeal that made me do a double take, and ask that whatever your position is, you do yourself the very same courtesy and at least listen. And for the record, as the title suggests, I won't be calling this shit net neutrality, as I feel like that's half the problem here, as the oblivious or merely gainfully employed and therefore busy among us hear the words net neutrality, hear Trump wants to repeal it, and proceed to engage in the kind of knee-jerk bile-spewing bullshittery normally reserved for the Witcher forums. Understand this. I can call anything net neutrality. I can call this water bottle net neutrality. I can call the smartphone or laptop you're actually using to watch this video net neutrality. I can call my dog a goldfish. Tomorrow he's still gonna wake up, wag his tail, and lick his balls, folks. The Patriot Act wasn't patriotic. The Affordable Care Act wasn't affordable. What in world-rending fuck makes you think net neutrality is inherently neutral? Cling fast to your armrests as I divulge this fact. Neutrality is supposed to be neutral. And what in high holy hell is neutral about handing authority of regulation of the internet over to the government, easily the most a-neutral body of bullshit mongers walking God's green earth? Then there's the suspect origins of the net neutrality hysteria itself. This all kind of began with an article by Michael J. Cohen, which became a Reddit thread, which became a tweet from Tim Wu, whose entire Twitter account at this point reads like a sock puppet for internet regulation activism. But even putting that aside, it contained an advertisement for Portuguese internet packages. Portugal being a country with no massive air quotes here. Net neutrality. The prices were absurd. The packages were pitiable. The dollar amounts are positively obscene. Wait, dollars? In Portugal? A country that uses euros? That's right, folks. I've been linked to this tweet by slabbering adherents to the net neutrality argument literally dozens of times, and I'm sure you have too. But on about the third time, I had to do a double take. This ad, the literal cornerstone of this entire controversy and movement, promulgated by the same Twitter account that rather conveniently also happened to coin the term net neutrality, also happens to be a bald-faced lie. When Congressman Ro Khanna weighed in with an actual screenshot of Portuguese internet packages, we stood aghast regardless. €5 for Spotify, €5 for messaging. My God, man, won't someone think of the children? I know. Maybe my good friend Google Translate will, because on that very same package, conveniently cropped out by Congressman Khanna, who did I neglect to mention also happens to represent the vast majority of Silicon Valley corporations, is a clear and concise explanation that these amounts are actually for an additional 10 gigabytes a month on top of your basic package. I mean, fuck, considering the average unlimited plan here in the States is what, 65, 70 bucks? Where's your righteous wrath on that score? And mind you, that's in a cell phone industry that falls under Title II regulation and has for quite some time. So to recap, the basis for this entire controversy is a blatant butt-fucking lie, followed by a willful misrepresentation with massively pertinent facts outright omitted. You think Bob Vila would build on that fucking foundation, folks? Look, we got two imperfect choices here. Uphold Title II protection, thereby ratifying the government's sole authority over regulation of ISPs, or upend this false net neutrality law, returning in the process not to the post-apocalyptic future proposed by the increasingly manic net neutrality proponents, but to the pre-2015 baseline, whereby it's not unregulated, it's simply not regulated by the FCC, but by the Federal Trade Commission. And here's the thing about a baseline. You can build on it, unlike being smothered by bureaucratic bullshit a la the fake net neutrality provision we have at present. Look, if we uphold not neutrality, we ratify the government's power, and name a time the government's ever handed that back fucking willingly. But if we upend it, at least we have options. We can take all the energy we're pouring into writing our congressmen into saving fake, indescribably shitty net neutrality, and instead pressure them to craft an actual net neutrality provision from the ashes of this prolonged piss take, perhaps even one that includes protection for customers censored by Twitter, Facebook, and Google on these so-called public utility websites, or, as the more libertarian-leaning among us would prefer, use the existing antitrust and anti-monopoly laws to righteously shithammer offenders on a case-by-case basis, creating precedents to dissuade further abuse, rather than far-reaching and ambiguously worded legislation. That's sorta kinda what the goddamn courts are for. Point being, only repealing this law gives you room to make a more informed choice later. Conferring yet more authority onto the government gets you the same dead end it always does. Repealing not neutrality gives you options. Upholding it takes options away. How is this even a controversy? But look, whatever you decide, you first have to concede that extending Title II to ISPs was never net neutrality. I mean, for Christ's sake, Title II, acknowledging telephones as a public utility, led to Title III, which allowed the government to wiretap them. Now, extend that invasive nonsense to the entire internet. Beginning to see why George Soros funneled $200 million into this fake-as-fuck net neutrality provision? Beginning to comprehend why Google, for example, who've already admitted they will not shrink from selectively pruning your search results along ideological lines, or Facebook and Twitter, who both silenced oppositional voices at the past 2 elections, are all suddenly in frothing-mouthed agreement in support of not neutrality. And while supporters argue that a stopped clock is right twice a day and shriek at me, "Oh, some guilt by association is not an argument raiser," until they're bluer than Jonathan McIntosh's balls, the only time Netflix had an opportunity to actually prove in a court of law that Comcast had been throttling their services, they not only failed to do so, but abrogative evidence emerged suggesting Netflix may have throttled their own services. Why, it's almost like Netflix, Google, and Facebook have a solution in search of an offense, rather than an offense in search of a solution. Fuck yeah, I support net neutrality. It's just too bad that's not what this is. As I said at the outset, I'm under no illusions I'll be changing any minds here. I imagine that dislike bar is predestined to look like a Sith lightsaber. They've been calling this nonsense net neutrality for 2 years, so the hooks on this horse shit are sunk supremely deep. I get that, and I doubt even one of you is gonna have some road to Damascus revelation in the face of countervailing data. Like I said, this is just what I found and gave me pause. If it doesn't bother you, whatever. I'm not knocking it. It's an imperfect solution either way, so by all means, you do you. As I said on Twitter, I didn't even want to make this, but I figured, at a bare minimum, I'd put myself on record so that once again, for the 100th time, when the inevitable septic cyclone makes landfall, having warned them and been habitually goddamn ignored, I can at least have the license to once again say, I told you so. What can I say? I'm just petty like that. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speak. Keep your hands